You've probably heard it before, leadership is a marathon and not a sprint. And honestly, that's good advice. I mean, it pushes back against the leader who wants results on day one and gets frustrated when the team isn't performing yet. The marathon framing is helpful, but here's where it falls short. A marathon has a finish line. You train for it, you run it, and when you cross that line, you're done. You made it. Leadership doesn't work like that. There is no finish line. And if you're leading as though there is, if you're treating trust building as a phase you'll eventually complete, or results as a destination you'll eventually arrive at, you're going to hit a ceiling that you won't be able to explain. So that's what I want to talk about today. Not just the long game of leadership, but what it actually means to lead when the game never ends. Today's episode was inspired by a podcast I was listening to about effective business networking and how it isn't about quick wins. It's about building relationships and learning about people and their businesses well enough to trust them with your business and refer them to others. And doing that over months and years, not days and weeks. A marathon, not a sprint. That was the framing. And as I was listening, I kept thinking, yeah, that's right. Leadership is built the same way. But it's also not quite enough because even a marathon runner knows where the finish line is. They're training towards something with a defined end. And in leadership, that finish line doesn't exist. That distinction changes everything about how you have to think about this idea when you apply it to leadership growth. Now let me start with a failure mode that we're more familiar with. The leader who skips straight to the results. You've probably seen this. Maybe you've been this. A leader who steps into a role and takes on a new team, and they come in with an agenda. There are goals to hit, numbers to move, and changes to make, and they start pushing. Now, the goals might be legitimate, and the changes, they might genuinely be needed. But here's what happens when a leader drives hard for results before the relational foundation is in place. The team complies, but they don't commit. They do what's asked, but they don't bring their best. They hit the targets you can measure, and they quietly protect themselves from the ones that you can't. The results come at first, but they have a ceiling, and that ceiling is exactly as high as the leader's authority goes. The moment that authority gets tested, a hard season, a personnel change, a decision the team disagrees with, that whole thing wobbles because there was never a foundation. There was only pressure. Now, trust is not a soft skill. It's a structural requirement. Without it, you can build something, but you cannot build something that lasts. But here's where I want to push past the standard advice, because there's a second failure mode that doesn't get nearly as much airtime. Some leaders here invest in relationships first, and they stop there. They become genuinely well-liked. Their team trusts them, and the culture is healthy. People enjoy coming to work. And then the results plateau or never even fully materialize. The leader can't figure out why. Well, here's why. Trust is the foundation, but it is not the building. A foundation you pour and then never build on isn't a house, it's just concrete. The people you lead don't just need you to care about them, they need you to lead them somewhere they have ownership in the results. They need a direction, a standard, a reason to give their best effort. A leader who builds trust but never drives toward anything in a quiet way is failing the people who are counting on them. This is where character comes in, and it matters more than most leadership content acknowledges. Because it takes character to push a team towards something hard. It takes character to hold a standard when lowering it would be more comfortable. Trust gives you the relational capital to do that. But you still have to do it. So here's the framework I want to leave you with. And it's simple, but I think it's accurate. Trust and results are not sequential stages. They are a loop. They feed each other. When you invest in the people you lead, when you know them and develop them, when you advocate for them and give them room to grow, they bring more of themselves to work. That has a direct effect on the results. Trust accelerates performance. And when your team achieves something meaningful, when they hit a hard goal or navigate a difficult season or produce work that they're proud of, and you celebrate that in a way that credits them rather than you, it deepens the trust they have in you and in your leadership. Results generously shared build more trust. Each one feeds the other, which means the leaders who understand this aren't choosing between people and performance. They're building a loop that compounds over time. The longer you run the loop with integrity, the stronger your team gets and the more capable they become of doing things that once seemed out of reach. That's what high-functioning teams actually are. They're not teams that have figured everything out. They're teams who have a leader that's never stopped investing in both the relationships and the results. Now, let's come back to this marathon metaphor, because I think it finally breaks down here. A marathon runner can train for a race, run it well, and then stop. The finish line is real. The accomplishment is complete, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a worthy goal. But you cannot lead a team the way you run a marathon. You cannot train hard for 18 weeks and push through miles, cross a line, and then stop. Because the people you lead keep going. The organization keeps going, and the challenges, they keep coming. The moment you treat any stage of your leadership as a completion, I've built the trust, now I just need to deliver results, or I've hit the goals, now I can ease up on the relationships. When you do that, you start to lose something that is very hard to rebuild. What the no finish line reality demands is not superhuman effort. It demands a particular kind of character. It demands leaders who are genuinely invested in the people they lead, not because it's a strategy that produces results, but because they actually care. Leaders who hold standards, not because they're performance-driven, but because they believe the people on their team are capable of more. That kind of leadership doesn't need a finish line, because it's not running towards something, it's expressing something. Who you are, what you believe about your people, what you're willing to do every day to help them get better. That is character-driven leadership, and it doesn't stop. Now, before we close, here's a question I want you to sit with. Have you been neglecting one side of the loop, the trust side or the results side? Are you treating it as if you've finished? If you're honest with yourself, most leaders lean in one direction. Some are wired to build relationships and naturally avoid the discomfort of pushing for hard outcomes. Others are wired to drive performance and find the slower work of relational investment frustrating. Neither instinct is wrong, but left unchecked, both create a ceiling. The question isn't which one you're good at. The question is, which one have you been avoiding? Now, the best leaders I've ever observed are not the ones who chose between the people and the results. They're the ones who understood early and deeply that those two things were never in competition. That trust without direction is incomplete, and results without relationships are fragile, and that there's no point at which the work of leadership is finished. There is no finish line, and that's not a burden. For a leader with the right character, it's actually the point. Now, to be clear, the work of leadership is indeed a marathon and not a sprint, but it's a marathon without a finish line. Be in it for the long haul and build both relationships and results. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Lead with More. If it was useful to you, share it with a leader who needs to hear it. And hit like and subscribe because it really helps this channel. And until next time, keep leading with more.